Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Paul Kelly. We have just seen Jack Catterall defeat Regis Prograis via unanimous decision in Manchester. Um, Paul was fairly wide scorecards in the end. We'll read them out in a minute. Yeah, what did you make of that? Kind of, it was. I felt like it was a fight of two halves in the sense that the first half wasn't great, but the second half was actually quite entertaining. What did you make of all of it?
Yeah, mate, can't disagree with what you've said there. Normally we describe a fight of two halves as being, one fighter controls the first half, one the second. It wasn't so much that, but I do know what you mean in the sense that, like, I mean, for up until the Prograis knockdown, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well, because a lot of people maybe didn't thought it was a bit of a harsh knockdown. Nothing really had happened. I think there was maybe in round three, Catterall landed one big backhand left, but apart from that, like it was feeling each other out, kind of what do they call it, downloading the data, and it just wasn't a compelling watch. But yeah, I think the second half of the fight it was a good watch. It was thoroughly entertaining. Even right to the end, obviously, with the scorecards being very wide, Prograis was just looking. He was looking for Catterall the whole fight, even with his seemingly when he could barely walk at the end on and whatever injury he sustained on his ankle. But yeah, mate, definitely a fight of two halves in the sense that the second half was far more entertaining than the first.
Yeah, definitely. I think look, it was enjoyable, and I think another thing as well, it was a closer fight than some people thought it was going to be. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a fairly wide points win for Jack Catterall, and on the scorecards you could say it was. However, I just think Prograis with those two knockdowns in the ninth round, I'd say that pretty it was hard for Prograis to win the fight on points after that. He would have kind of needed to respond with knockdowns of his own. How did you have it, Paul? Just to go over the scorecards, 116, twice, and then 117, 108. So three kind of quite consistent scorecards there. I don't think there is anyone who kind of had it super close. Maybe some people might have had it a bit closer than that. How did you have it?
Yeah, I think when you factor in the one on the 10-7 round, I suppose you've got to give it with the two knockdowns. I think, um, you know, at a push, you're maybe giving Prograis 5 rounds. Forget about the knockdowns for a minute. You're probably giving Prograis maybe 5 rounds and Catterall seven. But with the knockdowns, obviously, yes, Prograis had one of his own, but with the two with Catterall, kind of certs his victory, does make it look a little bit wider, I think, than perhaps it was. I think the scorecards were, for me, still a tad wide, but the right man, it's not like, it's not like anyone was robbed here or whatever. I think the right man won in the end, definitely. A tad wide for me, but yeah, maybe the 7-5, 8-4 Catterall, maybe. But obviously it looking like a bigger margin with those knockdowns. What about yourself?
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with you. I think Catterall had that 10-7 round in the ninth round, and he then kind of moved on and dominated the fight in the championship rounds. So yeah, I think that I'm not outraged by the scorecards, and it's good to know that kind of it's not all to do with that. It's not all to do with that ninth round, although kind of it was such a big round for Catterall, it didn't completely decide the fight. Um. What else did you make of it, Paul? Was there anything that you were impressed by with Jack Catterall this evening? Anything you thought he could have done better? I think if you consider Jack Catterall's resume, which has kind of come into question this week, he's obviously got the two fights against Josh Taylor, which he really should have won both of them. Win over Ohara Davis, which was a while ago. Win over Tyrone McKenna, which was a while ago. To beat Regis Prograis and to knock him down twice. To win have is a very good win for Jack Catterall. What else did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was frustrating points in the sense that, like, I can't remember what exactly he said, but at one stage, maybe, was it after the fifth or the sixth or the seventh, just before then Catterall then had started having more success from the eighth onwards, I think. Jimmy Moore said something to him, but like, need to make him respect you or something. I think at that stage, Prograis looked like he was feeling himself a little bit. He got the knockdown in the fifth, and then you could kind of see the way he was bobbing and weaving, almost a little bit of showboating or whatever in the mid rounds as well. You were like, you know what, Catterall needs to land something here to gain Prograis' respect, which obviously he did in a big way in the ninth. And then after that, I think it was just, I don't know whether he was just exhausted hurt from the shots or whatever. But yeah, after the knockdowns, I think from the eighth round onwards, if you're looking at that, if you tuned in and started watching from the eighth to the ninth round onwards, you're thinking it's a brilliant performance from Jack Catterall. I think that's fair to say you are. I still feel bad as well because I think people are going to probably jump the gun and say, "Oh well, really, he he got schooled by Devin Haney. The fight before that, he was lucky to win. Blah 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 blah."
Mm.
Like I think that was a good version of Regis Prograis there. I still think he has a lot to give. I don't think he's. I was maybe questioning whether he was washed before this, but I don't think he is. Given on that performance, I still think he has a lot to give the 140 pound division, at that kind of world level. So yeah, that's kind of my other takeaways from it, mate. But yeah, ultimately it's a good win for Jack Catterall. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say anything that, oh, well, yeah, we expected him to win and he was a favourite.
Mm.
But I think Regis Prograis did turn up and Jack Catterall did have to dig deep at stages, especially from the mid rounds onwards. But ultimately, as Jamie Moore said in his corner, he did demand Prograis respect after landing those big shots in the ninth and then, yeah, took over and won the fight well in the end.
Yeah, and I think another thing I would say is that when Jack Catterall, look, he's not been on the ground so far in his career. And there were times I would say maybe round five, round six when he was arguably losing the fight. So I think that experience of being in that kind of danger zone when when kind of a loss is in sight will be good because I think it's not not every fight's going to be plain sailing for him. Couple more, Paul. Before I let you go. Regis Prograis, do you think he will fight on? 35 years old now, second loss in a row, but as you mentioned, it was a competitive fight tonight. Not what I'm not asking what you want to happen, but do you think he will continue?
Yeah, I do, mate. I think he'll look at that and think like he was having a lot of success at stages of that fight. You know, up until, as we've mentioned a load of times, up until about that eighth or ninth round when he was arguably ahead on the scorecards. I think at the halfway point, I'd maybe given it 3-3. But you could easily have seen 4-2 Progress, no problem at all. So at the halfway point, he's in majority of people's eyes, he's probably winning the fight up to around seven or so. So yeah, I think he still has a good bit to give. I don't think he'll in himself will know. Like I think he put in a decent performance for a while there until the last, five rounds, six rounds. So I think he has more to give. I don't think that he'll retire. I think he'd still. I think he would maybe be jumping the gun a little bit. And I also do, as you said, I don't want to see him retire. I still think he has a lot to give. But no, I can't sit here and say that I think he's going to retire because I think he'll still believe in his heart of hearts, whether he can or not. But I still think he'll believe that he can maybe have one more go at winning a world title for a third time. Whether he does that or not, um, remains to be seen. But I reckon he'll fight on.
Yeah, we'll see. Just putting it out there, I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch with him and Josh Taylor. I think that was a fantastic fight. I think both fights were arguably at their peak. I think that it was weirdly the anniversary of that fight is today. I saw on Josh Taylor's Twitter earlier. Not that that's really got anything to do with anything, but here we are. I think that's a fight I wouldn't mind seeing, but whether that fight can happen without a world title on the line, we'll wait and see. But maybe that's an option for both fighters in 2025. I know you're going to be recording some content with Thomas in the next couple of days, Paul, about what Jack Catterall might do next. If you're watching this video, if you enjoy this video, you'll probably enjoy the video I'm talking about as well. Please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already and keep an eye out for our content. Paul, I think, in my opinion, what's most likely for Jack Catterall in 2025 is to face the winner of Liam Paro, Richardson Hitchens. The fight takes place on the 7th of December in Puerto Rico. I think it would be a good idea if Jack Catterall himself was ringside for that fight and was able to kind of make a, you know, make a scene make a scene after the fight, although that's not really what he does. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And how do you think he would get on in facing the winner of that fight?
Well, it's a world title next. That's it. Regardless of who it's against, he's fighting has to fight one of the champions at super lightweight. That makes sense. It kind of also makes sense timeline wise, doesn't it? You have to. It's not they're fighting what as you said from now about what six weeks or so 5 6 weeks away. So it's relatively close to each other. So you could imagine that fight could get made for I don't know March April next year. And that would be more than enough time for everyone to April time next year probably would be enough time for them all. Whoever wins that fight against Catterall, I'd like to see that fight. Yeah, I can't see it happening. I think it does make sense. I mean, I don't know what Devin Haney's crack is of whether, he's going to be back anytime soon. If you're Jack Catterall, just call out anyone and everyone with a belt. In my opinion, that's what you've got to do. And yeah, again, don't know what Teofimo Lopez is doing either. But is that a fight that could be made? Obviously seen Teofimo Lopez fight Josh Taylor before, so could that get made against Jack Catterall? I hope so. These are fights we all want to see, but I think what you've said there, mate, yeah, the fight with Paro Hitchens winner probably the most likely.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, both of those guys promoted by Matchroom. Jack Catterall, look, he might have to do a bit of waiting. I think, you mentioned April. Personally, I think it's could more likely maybe May or June. That Jack Catterall's going to be in the ring again if he's fighting one of those guys. But as you said, what Teofimo Lopez is doing next, no idea. Devin Haney, no idea. So maybe it's best to stick with them. Liam Paro and Hitchens are both promoted by Matchroom, so you got to think that's a fight that can be made. Paul, we'll leave it there. Another enjoyable fight night, really. We've had a couple of good ones recently, and we will see what's next. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers, mate. All the best.